Hi, everybody. My name is Hazel Saenz. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for joining to this session. Today, we're going to talk about measuring the performance of serverless application with generative AI models and Amazon Bedrock. My name is Hazel Saenz, and I am from Guatemala. I am an AWS serverless hero, and I'm really passionate about talking serverless all the time. So you can find me in AWS Community Day, summits, and all tech related events in Latin America. And I'm also the creator of Q, virtual assistant that helps and try to revolution how is the way that we are learning about AWS. So I write also technical articles. So if you want to go and see my content and or even just connect with me to talk about serverless, please follow me on my media. I leave the QR in here for you can follow me, and I'll be glad to talk to you. So let's get started. What we are going to learn today, because there was a really fancy title in the talk today, but what is really what we want to learn here? So I don't know about you, but when I started to learn about Gen AI like a couple of years back, I started to test all the different models that it come to the market, right? Like everybody else. I started testing, and when I start evaluate them, I see the publicity and says something like this in the image in here. So in all the ads, they create like, I want an image that can say this about an eye, for example, and create something like this. And what's so awesome? So I say, oh, this is great. I want to test this. But when I started to test it, I realized that my image, it wasn't exactly the same as the ad. I don't know if that happened to you, but it happened to me a lot. And it was really frustrated. And it gave me something like this. Like I have a character with three mouths instead of one, and or sometimes even I have more hands or more legs in a character or something like that. I just started thinking about I want to build application with Gen AI. Not only that write it for me, but actually use it in my business. So it's supposed to be easy and straightforward, and they never should fail. It sounds easy, right? But for some reason, it wasn't. So, why so hard? When I started to actually build and incorporated these different tools on it, I realized that, and I learned that with Gen AI application, it is different about what we are used to work before. One, because in my previous systems related with banking, e-commerce, and all the different kind of application, all that program were deterministic. And what is that? That means that when I send an input, I always get the same output because the logic inside the program, it was like a bunch of ifs. Let's say if you give me a one, I will return you the word yes. If you give me a two, I will return you the word no. So every time that I say one, I'm gonna have the same answer. And every time I say two, I'm gonna have exactly the same answer. So everything is the same. One and over again. But now it's different. With GenAI application, we have a program that is based in probabilities. It is probabilistic. What this concept means, that means that I can have the same input over and over again, but my output may change. Why? Because the models what actually going to give you as an answer is based about the probabilities that could be the right answer. So the models have so much information that they not always going to return you the same. Probably if 100% ask the same question and the model knows that 98% of that users what one kind of question, they're gonna provide you that answer. Yeah. But it's probably not the one you want because you could be the 2% that it wasn't looking that answer, right? That's why it's more difficult to actually create an application that give you that provide to the users the output that you want based only on probability. And that opens a new door for me when I started to actually build this kind of application and said, okay, now I know the problem. I know why it's so hard and evaluate a little bit in more details. So now that I know that my previous application was deterministic, that I know that it's fixed result, that it depends on fixed rules because was a bunch of it, is it always the same. So I know what it works in my previous projects. An example of this, it could be like a binary search and all the kind of application that is already out there, right? But probabilistic, I don't have fixed result. I don't have the same rules all the time. It depends about not only about what is the outcome that I want, it's about what the model that I'm used because each model is trained with different data. So the output that can provide me, they are different. So now I have a new variable that I need to consider. What model I do need in my business for actually can get the output that I need, right? And it may vary each time that I ask the same question. So if I have 100 users, then I send the same question, I'm not always going to get the same answer. So what kind of examples are there? Can I have in here? Well, I have all the ML models like Amazon Nova, Cloud, ChatGPT. Every model is different. Every model process the information differently and collects different kind of data. So that's why their outputs change. So if I still do want to have application with Gen AI, because I do, because I need to have it in my business to actually grow and take all the capabilities that Gen AI offers to me into my business, what should be my goal? How can I knowing that I have this kind of challenge, can I face it? So the first thing that we need to understand is what are the Gen AI objectives? Because it is important to be aware of that in a business decision. So the first one, I want quality. I don't want to have an image with three mounts. I want that my output there always have in the high quality that the user needs. My user needs, right? So that's an important fact. The second one is I want the best performance. I don't know if it happened to you, but I use some of these tools, and when I create in one model, I get the answer really fast. And when I test the other one, it was more slow than the previous one. And maybe it's the slowest, the quality is not that good. So which one should I use? Was the faster, right? And the best quality. But it comes to into a balance because you don't only want that your application be 100% accurate all the time, but I want to this application should be fast because I don't want my users go to the other company to get the information that I want to provide them, right? And for that, I need to be fast. So performance is really important here. And the other one that is maybe not that impactful to the users, but is impactful to my business is that it needs to be cost effective. So I want to have that this application have high quality. We need to have the best performance in the market, but I also need to be careful with my prices because with my cost itself, because Gen AI is expensive. The model use is expensive. So I need to be wise when I select what model should I use. And I need to be aware that maybe I don't need such intelligent models for some tasks, but for others I do. So I need to learn how to balance that. Okay. And with that, if I get these three key objectives, I'm going to create a fully good Gen AI application. Okay, so to get here, we need to understand what are the building blocks that consist an Gen AI application. No, because it is a little different if you have experience creating another kind of application, like a e-commerce application or a banking application. With Gen AI, it's a little different. And this is the blocks that we have. To start, we have the foundational model hub. This part of the application, it it has the communication of the models itself. So what models are you going to use in your application? Because in some cases, we want to build our own model. In other cases, we're going to use the one that we already have in the market. And that is good. But this is the phase when you decide that. Okay. The second part is the data foundation. Do you remember that I said that all the models has different outputs because the data is different? So in your business, it's the same. I can have a business that it provides the same service that another can company, but mine is going to be different because my data is different. It provides something new to the users. And that is why this other layer is really important, because depends on the quality of your data, your application, the quality of your application will be different. The third layer is about model adapting and prompting. And this is something really important. You can have the data that you need. You can select the best model you can. But if you don't know what is the right prompt to use that model, you will probably will not get the best results. So this is the point when prompt engineering is come to the game and start changing the things. Okay. The other part is Gen AI apps. You already know what is the three-layer basic of a Gen AI application, right? But to actually have a successful application running with different cycles of deployment, you need to get in place your software development lifecycle. And that is this part of Gen AI apps. How you going to deploy that application? You're going to use a infrastructure as a code for that, all that kind of stuff. And what is the continuity you're going to have into different versions and all that. And something that is important, and we cannot forget about that, is that probably you already have some application with your clients. They already know and they are familiar how this application is going to be connected to your new application that is powered with Gen AI. So that is the other block that we need to take in consideration. And this part, and to this point, we know what are the components that are part of a good Gen AI application. Okay. But we need to add something else. In here, we need to keep in mind that if you're going to have this kind of application, you need to have in place a good governance and you need to have the control plane. And what is that? You need to be aware about your user, what kind of access they can have, what the security you're going to have in your application to not be attacked and all that kind of stuff. But the control plane is going to be the one that can help you to improve your application into the future. Okay. Why? Because it's open this world that is being called observability. And it allows you to actually, you can monitor what is going on in all the different blocks that I described before. Okay. And for the last layer, the last block that we're going to have in here, it's not that it's not important because it is, but it's all the infrastructure that is running below this application that is making it to actually work. So in this session, we're going to see, and we're going to focus only in these three blocks. We're going to focus in the foundational model hub, how the models actually, we can collect the information from them and all the data foundation. Okay. And we're going to talk about observability. And why observability? Because If we want to have the three objectives of these applications, the quality, the cost, and the performance, we need to be, before we can decide what we use, we need to be aware what we need, how our application is being, how it's working behind. Because with each interaction, I can learn about it and I can improve it. For the GenAI application, this is the key factor. If you don't observe what is going on in your application, you can't improve it. So you're probably going to be left behind because the other companies, they are watching their own application and they're improving themselves. In some cases, they're going to take decisions about, I'm going to change the model. I'm going to change, I'm going to improve my prompting. I'm going to change my data because I'm not providing the data that I need. That kind of decision needs to base on numbers, and the numbers is going to be provided to you using observability. Okay, this is an example about what is a foundational model hub like in a high level, right? You can have a GenAI application and you're going to have a GenAI gateway that is going to be the point of access for all your GenAI components that is going to be part of your application. That could be like you can use models in Amazon Bedrock, for example, or you can create your own models. You remember that I said you can have both? Yeah, you can have both. You can choose to have your own model created from scratch, or you can start using the tools that is already in the market, like Amazon Bedrock, that it provides you the capability to you can use the other models out there from cloud for Anthropic, Llama, Nova. You can use all that models just by using the Amazon Bedrock API, for example. And in some way, you can have the benefit of all that different models using just one language to do it, right? And the other part it was the enhancement of data foundation. That is one example of that is our RAG application. So when you talk about GenAI project applications, you need to put your data to this application for they can answer or they can use it to train and provide you outputs that you need that will be custom to your clients. So that's why it's so important. So you're going to provide that information to the application and the RAG comes up. So you can have ETL process, you can have applications like Confluence, Jira, GitHub. You can have a different input that's going to provide that information to your customers. You can even have documents, PDF files, CSV files, whatever you need. That is your data. Even you can have APIs, you can have databases that you need to provide that information to your application for they actually can use them to be trained, right? So in here, there comes two concepts. One, the Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases that it will allow you to have all the different files that I was mentioned before, like easily get all that information together, put it in a vector database, and the models can actually use that database to get the information, right? You can have actions, you can have tools that you can incorporate in here. But the main goal is to get your data, right? And you can also have Amazon Bedrock Guardrails. That is going to be the one that helps you to not only have the information, but to protect yourself and protect your data to be read and malintent for some of the users. For example, what kind, I don't know, but they can be like the information, the sensitive data from your customers. Is there something that you get in your data, but you don't want that that application can have it, or you don't want, yeah. So you don't want your application, another application can have that information because it's protected. So you can do it with guardrails. Okay. So what are the key? What we need to follow to actually implement observability? We need to have these four layers in place. One, the component level. You need to have metrics in your infrastructure. You need to have invocation, errors, latency, utilization, because in order to identify if you have a performance issue, you should know how your resources is performing. So you need these metrics. Yeah. Layer two, you're gonna get metrics from the and the traces. So when you work with models, the traces can be really important because you need to know what actually is going to happen when the user asks for something and all the different steps that is related with all the different components. So this is why it becomes important part. Layer three, the metrics and analysis related to guard. How many users try to get sensitive data for a customer? How many users can actually get trying to get information about your cost or something? That is important. That is something that you need to keep in mind because you probably need to change the way that your data is being populated to your models. And the fourth and last one is the user feedback. The user and feedback is important because when you are interacting, let's say like a chatbot, if the answer that provided to the user it wasn't good enough, the user can give you that feedback and can say, yes, it was good, I don't like it, I hate it, all of that kind of stuff. You can get it from there and you can improve yourself. Because remember, each time you have an answer, it's gonna be a different answer and could be a good one that satisfies what the user need, or it can be another one that it doesn't do it at all. Okay, so that's why the four layer is important. You can do it if you already have an application. You can do it step by step. So you can start step one, then plan to have this layer two, the layer three, and the level four. But it is in this order because it is important that you start to do it, and you need to when you start designing your application, you need to be aware that this is the road that you must follow to actually can have the most observability and the most decision data related improve. And for this example, I'm going to use Amazon CloudWatch that is a service from AWS that is used to collect all the not only the logs but also trace and collect all the information from from the services that is involved in this kind of application. Okay, so with that we can do it a demo. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it. You can just scan this, and I will try to give the link so you can download in the video. I create a small application in GitHub, and you can just download it. You can clone it. You can deploy it in your own AWS account, and you can start just deploy it, use it, and start to see the dashboard about how you are collecting the data. Okay. Okay. So let's take a look about the team. Something that is important in here is that to actually, if you are going to use some Bedrock, you need to collect your metrics. And that is not a default feature that is turned on. You need to go and do it yourself. I'm doing it here really fast, only to see how simple it is. You can send it to an S3 bucket, or you can send it directly to cloud, only to CloudWatch. And the target that you can have all the different inputs that the models are actually working. So if you see here, in here in the example, you're gonna have an API that is a expert in music. So you can ask it anything about the music. And each time the user sends a question, a model is being invoked at the backend, you will get the answer about that question. And if you go to see now, I turn off the logs. If you see here, you can get now the information about that request. You will know what model was involved. You can know what is the question that the user made, what is the answer that the model provide, and and really important, the token that is being used. In here is going to help you to get what is exactly the cost that is getting to you by using this. For example, if you want to compare to a different model, you can have the same implication to two different models. You can count the tokens and you will know which one was more expensive. or which one takes the longest, what is the latency and all that. And only like enabling that part. The other kind of metrics is the one you use with X-Ray and you use with CloudWatch and you use also with CloudTrail. In this example, I have in the Lambda, I use a specific trace to actually can be aware the timing that is consuming the all the different steps in the function. In the repo, you can see the example and you will get the information not only to the invocation, the time that the Lambda takes to run, but you will also know how long the Lambda takes to execute the model. And you will know the timing of the metrics, for example. So in here, if you see, if I can go, you can go to CloudWatch, we'll see that now you are capturing all the different logs in here, and we can go to X-ray because it is instrumented to X-ray, and you can see that you're not only gonna get what is the logs inside the Lambda, but you also get this kind of diagram. They show you what all the different services involved to get that answer. Okay, so this is the cool part that you have like different all is separate. You have the trace at the level of the code that you need, and you can go much deep as you like and you need in your business. Okay. So what are the lambdas? I recommend that I always have this, the one that I use in the models itself. That is really important. The logs that you see in the beginning about what's the answer to the models itself. And with that, you can also make something really cool in CloudWatch that is related with the dashboard. So by default, you can go and create this dashboard. You only select that you want to have like Bedrock dashboards, and you will have the invocation of the models, the input token, and in here, this can provide you a visual when you can have the comparison between the different models that you are using. If you have, for example, like 10 models that being used, you will actually be able to see it. Okay, so this is only the implementation of phase of layer 1 and layer 2. For layer 3, that is part of the guardrails, and level 4, that is an end user input. I didn't have it in the demo, but it's like the next steps that you can have with this basic observability. Okay, so with that, I said so with it, that's all that I have. I really thank you to be here. I'm really flattered to be part of. But with that, I am. That will be all. I'm really flattered to be here in this space. So let's connect with me and have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.